What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel for more wrestling news, bringing you all those latest rumors and reports. There's a lot to talk about following this past weekend's WrestleMania, from Becky Lynch, the Fiend, some backstage news, and more. Timestamp down in the description below. And you guys already know, make sure to turn on those notifications to continue enjoying the coverage. And if you want even more wrestling content, consider subscribing to the second channel. Going into WrestleMania, one of the big rumors was Becky Lynch making a potential return. So rightfully so, after WrestleMania, one of the big questions that we now got is what happened and why she didn't return, because everything was sort of aligned for it to happen. Becky Lynch teased a return at WrestleMania on both nights, but that didn't happen. There were plans for her return and preparations in place, according to Ringside News. There were also reports that WWE was planning something with Bayley for the men's return, and Bayley of course had a few interesting segments during WrestleMania, many of which every single time she was shown, the fans started chanting Becky. As we know though, during the segments, instead of us getting Becky Lynch, we got the Bella Twins, who ended up putting Bayley on her place because of the typical heel that she is. Ringside News added that they asked around about the situation in regards to Becky Lynch's return and why it didn't happen at WrestleMania. They were told that it was discussed and WWE even prepared it, but it was never decided on. So WWE had plans and they prepared them, but the men's return obviously didn't happen. Heading into the event, probably on day 1 or even day 2, WWE decided that her return will be better served for a better time for whatever reason. So the creative plans were there, WWE was really close, but in the end they just ended up canceling the segment. And this probably had to do with the fact that at WrestleMania we did have the live crowd audience, but as you guys can see, right after that WWE had to go back to the Thunderdome. WrestleMania was a special event. WWE had to do a lot of different type of work just to get fans in the arena, and doing that on a weekly basis for the main roster just doesn't seem possible or even beneficial. So WWE really seems to be waiting for that right time to bring her back. How long can they hold out for it though? It's a whole nother question. At this point, I'm personally expecting Becky to be back within the month or within the next 2 months. Moving into some other news, and this is one that we're not necessarily too surprised about. It looks like Vince McMahon has given up on 2 specific competitors. Now at WrestleMania 37, we got Bobby Lashley defeating Drew McIntyre to defend his WWE Championship. And according to the Wrestling Observer Radio, things are not looking good for the almighty former faction members, Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. They added that Cedric and Shelton are so low on the totem in the WWE in the eyes of Vince McMahon, meaning that another push for them is not near at all. Now this doesn't necessarily mean that the team is done. Alvarez on the Wrestling Observer Radio simply indicated that things don't look bright for the former Hurt Business members. And to make things worse, instead of WWE trying to reunite them with MVP and Bobby Lashley, they had MVP hiring T-Bar and Mace to simply attack Drew McIntyre and to do the dirty work. It hardly makes any sense. If anything, they should have just used this opportunity to some way, somehow try to swerve us and get Cedric and Shelton Benjamin back into the faction. Honestly, breaking up the Hurt Business gotta be the worst move that Vince McMahon has done this year. The next pay-per-view is a WrestleMania Backlash. Of course, WWE trying to keep that WrestleMania momentum going, which is not a bad idea, but hopefully after Backlash we go back to normal. I really don't want WrestleMania Money in the Bank. Just leave Money in the Bank the way that it is. Nonetheless, as we are talking about that next pay-per-view, right now the report is that one of the main matches for this event is going to be Asuka versus Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley for the Raw Women's Championship. And this is a bit obvious following this week's Monday Night Raw. Sticking with Rhea Ripley, in a recent interview, she discussed Vince McMahon's reaction to her WrestleMania match. To TV Insider, she stated the following. One of the big ones was talking to Vince McMahon afterwards. Hearing him saying, "Well done," and that I did great, it was surreal. It's a dream and I'm living it. To have the big boss man say, "Well done," was pretty insane to me. End quote. Hopefully this means that Vince McMahon is high on her and is going to continue pushing her and putting a heavy focus on her. A lot of NXT call-ups just end up being wasted or lost in the shuffle, as we always discuss, so I'm really hoping that Rhea is not one of them, and also Bianca. Now in this interview, she also ended up revealing that a certain major WWE superstar was crying backstage at WrestleMania not long before their own title match. She ended up revealing that Edge was in tears for her by the time she had made it backstage. Rhea Ripley revealed that she found the huge victory overwhelming and she wanted to cry, realizing that she achieved her dreams. She stated the following: "It was crazy walking through the curtain and seeing the crowd and how excited they were. All my dreams were coming true. It was something I worked toward for a long time. I was trying to hold it all together, telling myself don't cry. Then I looked over to Edge near me and he had tears in his eyes. He nodded at me and winked. I just lost it. I cannot hold it together." A very awesome moment for sure. And it looks like we're not done with the main roster call-up just yet. This week on NXT, we had Roderick Strong quitting. During a backstage segment, he ended up handing his resignation letter to William Regal. And very interestingly, right next to him, he had his wife. William Regal asked Roderick Strong if he was sure about this, which he indicated, "Yes, I'm done." William Regal then told Roderick Strong that he is welcome to NXT anytime that he wants, because there will always be a place in that roster for him. Now, of course, there's no confirmation of what exactly it's happening here. Is Roderick Strong actually leaving the WWE? More than likely not. This seems to be a goodbye type of thing, and they're just doing it differently without spoiling the fact that maybe he's gonna end up on Monday Night Raw or even SmackDown this week, which could be a double call-up because, as I said, Marina was right next to him. In storyline faction, this does make a lot of sense when you look at it. Roderick Strong has been that middleman, just seeing the Undisputed Era destroy each other, Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole just going at it, and Roderick Strong just in the middle of things, trying to resolve everything, but he just can't. At this point, he is defeated, so it makes sense for him to quote-unquote lose his smile and just try to move on from this whole thing. And the best way to do it is to maybe switch brand. And last but not least, we are talking the latest in regards to the Fiend versus Randy Orton that went down at WrestleMania and what is to come. Because it looks like there's some pretty big rumors and speculations right now. First off, Fightful did report it that the Fiend Bray Wyatt was indeed planned to win at WrestleMania against Randy Orton. But this was one of the last minute changes that WWE did, changing the finish of this match, which resulted in Alexa Bliss quote-unquote turning on the Fiend, asserting control and distracting him, letting Randy Orton get the victory. Based on what we saw on this week's Monday Night Raw, it does feel like the Fiend and Alexa Bliss are gonna go their separate way, but they are still going to keep their characters until they at least come together again. Alexa Bliss kind of made it clear that now she is in control and she is just above that next level. Another rumor in regards to this whole storyline is that they could end up introducing Bo Dallas, Bray Wyatt's real-life brother, who has been missing in action for over a year now. It has come so far that fans are even speculating that instead of Bray Wyatt, it was Bo Dallas competing at WrestleMania against Randy Orton. This has to do with the tattoo difference, and of course the Fiend at WrestleMania looking slimmer. There's no reports in regards to that by now. I think it would have leaked. We would have known who was behind the Fiend mask. Obviously it was Bray Wyatt. We got to keep in mind that Bray Wyatt has been out of action for over 4 months now, and with this cleanup attire, we could finally see that, hey, maybe he lost some weight. Now again, these are just rumors, but with Bo Dallas still being in the WWE, not being used as much, WWE could be planning to introduce him somehow in the ongoing program between Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt. As you guys can see in regards to this storyline, there's just a lot of speculation right now, and wherever WWE takes it, it should be interesting. The main takeaway from it though is that WWE is now giving us the presentation that Alexa Bliss is the one in control, whereas before the Fiend was, and she's basically running everything right now, whether the Fiend wants it or not. Anyways guys, that is all the latest or the recent wrestling news. To continue being up to date, make sure to hit those notifications and subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you guys on the next one, so stay savage.